Afternoon, chaps. What you see before you there is a Strider. This is the SnG model. This one has the 3.5-inch blade, which is 0.156 inches thick. Handle length, and also when it's closed, is 4.62 inches. For pocket carry, which I find important, is a 1/2 inch thick handle, and also 1.5 inches or just under wide. Now, this is a love-hate relationship for me. This knife, as you all know, is very highly hyped and has an awful lot of respect in the knife community for those of you who are kind of participating, I suppose. I don't mean on YouTube, I mean in general. It's a very respected knife. And there are a lot of things I love and quite a few things that I think are quite problematic with this knife. The thing I love most about it is the fact that it's ridiculous. The amount of titanium and beautiful S30V steel, stonewash finished, the kind of 1000 grit sandpaper style feel to the G10. It just makes you think you're holding a workhorse in your hand, which this thing is. Now you just have to be careful when you buy them. These things can be fraught with quality control issues. This one wasn't, relatively speaking. There's still quite a few problems. And so some questions, if you think you're buying one of these, to look out for. Now, this is just from my personal experience, and I'm sure there are plenty of others. There are plenty of other SnG videos out there. I recommend you have a look around to see what other problems there could be. The biggest one, if you're an anal knife nut like me, is blade centering. This one's perfect. But on quite a few of the newer Striders, it seems that this isn't perfect. They have kind of off to one side, which is never a good thing. However, the tip on this, as you can see, is not uniformly ground. So that's an uneven tip, which you should look out for. Also, lock-up. Some of these have been released with up, down and side-to-side blade play, which is not good from a knife which costs about $400 brand new. I did not pay that for this, by the way. And so just be careful when you're asking about that. Ask if there's any blade play. Also ask about lock-up. There's plenty of travel. Now this one's about 50-50 travel. For me, that's perfect. For some, that may be too much. I think if anything is too little, you want as much across there as possible. But the least it is across, the more life there is. So the further over left, in a way, it is, from your perspective, viewing through the camera now, the better in terms of longevity, but also in terms of sturdiness, in my opinion, it's not as good. Also ask about blade grinds. Now this one is a almost full height flat ground, and this one's been given a micro convex edge by the previous owner. Usually they come, apparently, with a very poor cutting edge, and that's because they're not really designed for utility and for cutting paper, because who the fuck cuts paper with a Strider, apart from knife nuts, I suppose. It's designed for cutting sturdier materials, and therefore it needs a thicker blade geometry to last longer. Now one like this has quite a nice steep convex, and that should be able to keep its edge relatively well. Of course, it won't be as good as the original one will be for cutting through, for edge retention at least, because it's going to be a thinner geometry and therefore wear down more quickly. But to me, it's the ideal compromise between sturdiness and utility. This thing slices very well, despite being 0.156 inches thick. It slices better than my Spyderco Military, in fact, in my opinion. That could be due to the stonewash finish, which reduces drag quite wonderfully. Now, some gripes I have with this knife are quite a few, but I still like it very much. You can see the lanyard hole there. Getting perfect view, and then boom. To that black patch, that's the blade entering into the lanyard. Now, if you've got a lanyard through there, it's probably going to slice part of it off, which is never a good thing, really. I'm surprised they let that go through. Really disappointing. Also, the tip is accessible through the handle. Now, you're not really going to get that. You're not really ever going to get your finger down in there, but as it is tip-up carry, you never know. You could waylay your finger, go, oops, and it's not cutting, but it certainly is scraping against my finger and could cause some damage, I'm sure, if you had a finer tip on there, which some of these do come with. Another gripe I have is this pocket clip. As you can see, it's resting on the lock bar, which I find very strange. So this point here is effectively pressing down the lock bar, which is good for maintaining the lock being open, so keeping the lock across the blade. But when you come to disengage it, that could theoretically be making it stiffer. And I don't know if it is any stiffer because I've never experienced it without the pocket clip. I haven't had the need to take it off. But I do wonder if that's a design feature to maintain the lock, which I don't believe it should be there. I mean, the lock should be strong enough in the first place without the need of a pocket clip, because it could just be, for example, admittedly this one isn't for left or right hand carry, but if someone were to take that off and the lock integrity is compromised because there's no pocket clip, I do question that. I think it's a possibility that could be the case. Furthermore, people talk about how thick the lock is. True, it is thick, but actually it's a millimetre thick down here. And in my opinion, that's where most of the load is going to be going. It's going to be travelling down this lock bar and then going boom into here. Now, you shouldn't really be batoning with this or doing any ridiculous tasks, but I do question whether that is really that sturdy. Of course, this part is, but is this? I don't know in terms of physics. I'm no physicist, but just thought I'd point that out to you guys. And now that's all the negatives. And I'm being negative because I think not enough people are. They don't point out the negatives on these knives. They get waylaid by the hype and also the fact that it is a pretty fantastic knife, which it is. But I strongly recommend you get hold of one of these before you pull the trigger on a brand new one. Get hold of a second-hand one, see what you think of it. Ask those questions which I pointed out about the blade centering, the lockup, all those kind of quality control issues, and also the grind. And enjoy it, which I really have been. I've been carrying it every day around the house, and it's a very nice tool to use. The handle is not as comfortable as I'd like. It has a lot of, I can count 6 hot spots right now, so I recommend wearing gloves if you're doing any hard tasks. But if you're doing light cutting using the choil, it'll be beautiful. The jimping's very functional, very grippy, and all in all, take that as you will. Recommended, but also with some caveats there. Cheers, chaps.